Okay, it is now 5 o'clock, and I'd like to call the Parks and Rec Commission meeting to order. My name is Alex Hackman, and it is a pleasure to be here as potentially my last time. So grateful for the opportunity that I've had. We'll proceed to second item of the agenda of approval of the minutes from September 11th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as stated?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Now we'll proceed to item number 3, opportunity for public comment on any items not on the agenda. Is there any public comment at this time? Okay. Now we'll move to item number 4, and we'll turn some time over to Brad for user fees and charges.
All right. Get this adjusted so I can make sure I'm speaking into the microphone as well. So about this time every year, either November, the December meeting, we propose before you a schedule of the fees that would be effective for the FY26 fiscal year. So that's effectively our July 1st through July 1st of next year through June 30th of 2026. So what we've been doing in the past is with this schedule of fees, typically we've alternated years with adjusting our fees. Last year we did not. It was the board's recommendation to not adjust the fees last year, so we did not see any increases there because the 2 years prior to that we actually had some fee increases consecutive years because of a lot of the inflation. So we had some fee increases there. So in that schedule there before you, that would be our proposed staff's recommendation for fee increases for the FY26 year. For the most part, the fee increases are in the range of 3 to 8%. The reason why it's kind of some variability there is a lot of our fees are increased by $1. We try to keep it as consistent and as rounded as possible for customer convenience, just so we're collecting even round fees. Try not to deal with the pennies and dimes and nickels and all that stuff. So you see a little bit of variability there, but there are a few items there that I did want to note some of the differences. So with the farmers market, you'll see that we're proposing a $5 increase there. $4.50 of that goes towards the land rental is what it's called, the land rental fee. But that helps cover the staffing costs, some of our other expenditures, programs and supplies. And then we also include an advertising fee as well, and that goes towards promotion of the market. So this fee has not been increased for the last 4 years or so. The last time that we did a fee increase, we recommended to not increase the farmers market fee because at that time it was council's initiative that we start collecting insurance information. So each of the vendors would be required to have their own liability insurance. And so that was going to be an additional fee for them at that time. And so we opted to not do an increase, but it's come time that our staffing costs are increasing, our programs and supplies costs are increasing, equipment costs, all of that. So we're recommending a $5 increase there for farmers market. With the recreation center operations, you'll notice a fee for the replacement keys going from $35 to $45. And the reason for that is that's really the cost of what it costs for those locker keys when they disappear on us. $45 by the time that we have some administrative costs and shipping and getting that key in. There are some additional costs there, so we are raising that to $45 as a recommendation. Aquatics, you'll see that one of the few fees that we have in there that we do not have a proposed increase is for our swim lesson fees, our group swim lesson fees. And that's because that's one of our biggest initiatives is to try to get every child in Iowa City to learn how to swim. And so we feel it necessary to keep that cost as low as possible. We do have a lot of scholarships that we provide for those lessons, but even for those that don't qualify for those scholarships, we want to make sure that it's affordable for everybody to participate. And then you'll also notice that the drop-in swim admission fees do not have a proposed fee increase either. And that's probably going to be a topic at large that we'll be discussing here, I'm guessing in the next year or so as we're redoing the city park pool. That's probably going to be a discussion on what our fees would be across the board, because right now it's $4 across the board at all of our pools. If somebody buys a swim pass, that's eligible for any of the pools that we have. And so that's going to be probably a larger discussion down the line. So right now we're keeping that at $4. One of the bigger increases that you'll see there is for the Terry Trueblood Lodge. Right now we're in the midst of kind of renewing that agreement that we have with the Ava Center, and we thought it would be good to look at our fee structure too and see if that still made sense for us. One of the things that's been noted to us consistently, time and time again, is that our fees are very, how should we say, very competitive. They're lower fees for an all-day rental at Terry Trueblood, particularly on the weekends. During the prime wedding season, we'll call it, that would be kind of your April through September, we're booked a lot out there. And the rest of the year, we're not booked as much on the weekends. And so it made sense for us to look at a peak season, low season fee structure. And so that's what we're proposing here. So in the peak season, we'd be looking at Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, being $290 per hour or $2,000 for the day, which from what we've seen is still a very fair price for that facility on a weekend during peak season. So we feel like that's still a very fair price that is very reasonable. And then October through March, we would be looking at keeping that pretty consistent with what we have right now. We still want to encourage people to rent the facility during those low seasons. And so we're keeping that at around $230 per hour or $1,600 for an all-day rental. And then throughout the entire year, Monday through Thursday, we would be looking at keeping that consistent with what it is right now at $110 per hour or $800 for an all-day rental, because we don't get a lot of use during the week, and that's throughout the entire year. And so we really want to encourage people to utilize that facility during the week as much as possible. And then finally, dog parks. We did not do a drop-in dog park fee increase. Because most of those fees are collected on an honor system. A lot of people will stuff that $5 bill in a envelope, or we also have the option for them to do we have a park mobile app option out there. So we have it designed where people, just kind of like the parking lots out here, they can pay their $5 daily dog park admission fee using it that way. But we want to make sure that people are still using it. We actually collect a good amount of revenue from our dog parks, whether it be the dog tags for the annual pass or the daily admissions. And so we feel like that's a fair fee to keep at the $5 in the hopes that people are still paying and participating that way. Yep.
Would it be possible to add the ability to get the annual pass at the park itself or the dog? Because I think as it is, you have to go down to like Gilbert Street.
Sure.
A little bit, not the most convenient
Yep.
to go get the tags.
If we have staff there, they can handle that. But the staffing hours are somewhat sporadic because it depends on the weather. And we also kind of want to keep people honest that way. So we have our staff scheduled at irregular times so that they're checking in on people's passes if they've paid the daily admission fee. The way that our pass is set up right now, it would be a little bit more challenging, especially one of the things that we could possibly look at doing would be more of an online option. That would probably be more feasible for people.
Excuse me, I think the issue is they have to show the rabies tag for when they
Yeah.
get the pass. That's why it's been in person instead of online. So, and that's dictated by Animal Services, not us. So that's probably the reason.
Probably the biggest
it's
holdup
not
there.
fully online.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So those are the proposed fees that staff has recommended. And so what we'd be looking for is a recommendation from commission to move this to council with the fees proposed, or if there's any questions or concerns about the rates that we have in there.
And they were in your packet, if you brought your, okay, you saw it in your
I
packet.
read it before. I thought when looking through it, everything seemed really reasonable. I think people would expect a varied rate, like your hotel one night could be different from the next
Right,
night. So,
right.
yeah, I think it looks all reasonable.
Okay.
And Brad, I know there's a lot of different programs to help those that might be not as fortunate,
Sure.
to cover some of the costs. Could you maybe just
Yep.
speak, for the
Sure.
record, on to some of those programs? I know
Yep.
the city does a lot to make a lot of these programs accessible as well. So.
Yep, absolutely. So we have an initiative known as Rec Assist, and that used to be known as our low-income discount program. We rebranded that a few years ago. From a marketing perspective, it's a lot easier for us to advertise it that way. It doesn't have as much stigma attached to it. But what this program is, it allows, with the exception of just a few things, and it's mostly like the daily drop-in fees, and like our pottery studio, and there's maybe a couple other things that it doesn't cover, but for the most part, Rec Assist can be applicable to most of the programs and passes that we have, that we offer. And what it is if somebody applies for this, they apply once per year. They can apply either online, we have a fillable form online, or they can apply in person, or they can send a form in to us. So we have multiple ways for them to be able to apply for this. And they list what their income is, how many people that they have in their household, and any government assistance programs that they have. And if they qualify for that, then we reduce all of their fees by 50% for the remainder of the year. And then we just require that they apply again at the beginning of the new calendar year. But they go into a database, so they just have to reference that anytime that they're registering, but they can register by phone or in person. And that fee reduction is applied. And so we have a lot of people utilizing that service now. That's actually been increasing year over year, which kind of shows our marketing efforts to getting the word out about that and people feeling comfortable applying for that, so that people can participate in more of our programs that we have. We try to reduce that financial barrier for people.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there other questions from the commission about any of the fee adjustments that are being proposed? Is there a motion to accept the fee adjustments as stated, or as far as the proposal that has been recommended by staff?
I would move to accept the fees and move it on to the council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Move on to item number 5, capital improvement projects.
All right, tonight I'm going to tag team this presentation a little bit. Tyler, he's been here a lot, Tyler Barrow, Park Superintendent, but next to him is Josh Worrell, who you've met at least one other time. He's our facility manager. We're going to do a couple things. I'm going to update you first on the City Park Pool Project and our Terrell Mill Roller Park Project. Then I'm going to walk you through the next 5 years of plans for the next 5 years of budget, capital improvement budget. We do this about once a year. So we get started. First of all, City Park Pool. We are closing in on the end of our design development. So we're getting close to this is what you're going to see when it's actually built. It is being built as 3 separate pools. So we have a 6-lane, 50-meter lap pool with 1 stair and 1 ramp entrance for accessibility, a leisure pool with a 0 depth entry, and a child's play structure in it. Now, originally it had shown a vortex or a current channel. We decided not to do that after further looking into it and injury rates and cost and long-term maintenance. And so instead we are going with more of a playground structure in the 0 depth entry, along with some bubblers and other kind of fun things in that area. That 0 depth entry pool will have that plus stairs and 2 different sets of stairs for access, and kind of a neat little bench along the southern curve there. And I don't think I can show you I can show you right here along this curve. It's a bench you can sit in the water. So as parents, you can sit and watch your kids. But during swimming lessons, how awesome. Kids can stand on that as their instructors are having them wait on the side. And then I'll have the diving well with a stair entry. It does have room for 3 diving boards. We are only bidding it with a low dive and a high dive, and then also a climbing wall for kids or adults to use as well. Here's another rendition of it. I think it's coming along very nicely. We are down to picking out plumbing fixtures and light fixtures and all of those things. We are skating right at the budget. We are about 18.3 was the budget, and we're about 18.39 at the moment. Still some contingency funds in there, so there'll still be some design changes as we finish this out, but we're getting there. And then the bathhouse, this would be the top photo is the new bathhouse looking from the deck. So you see all the chairs in kind of the central area where you walk through. The right side is where the community room is, and that's a year-round community room with 2 outdoor restrooms that'll be available and heated year-round as well. The bottom one is as you come up from the parking area. So once again, the center section is where you would enter the pool, the main pool area, locker rooms, one on each side. There are single-user shower rooms or changing areas directly behind where you check in. So you can have single user or family user, or you can have men's or women's. There'll be all 3 options. And then on the left side, kind of that second opening is where the community room will be, and that will be available year-round, both for rec programming and for community use. And our timeline on this, as I said, we're through schematic design. We are right now in design development and getting our construction documents pulled together for this. Hope to plan at this point for February 4th to set the public hearing. So that's our date when all the final decisions will be made and bid documents need to be done. The bids, if the council approves those on February 18th, it would go out to bid with them due on March 11th, and anticipating an award around March 18th. That's a pretty quick schedule for the bidding, and that's, cross your fingers that everything goes perfectly and we get really good bids. We have left it so that if we had to, we could open the pool for another summer. So nothing has been taken out that can't be restarted if we had to. So if something happens in these last few months where the bids come in too high and we can't find the funding to do it the way we want, there is that very slim possibility it would operate for one more season and then be delayed a year. I just want to make sure that the public's aware that that's always an option with a project this size. We don't anticipate that at this point. We certainly anticipate that the decisions we're making will keep it within the budget and we'll get good bids, but just in case, so we know that. So are there any questions on City Park Pool before I go further?
So I have a couple of questions. So, when was the decision made to move it to 3 pools instead of the 1 larger pool and the
Sure.
diving well?
So when the council approved the schematic designs, that was one of the options they left open, to do either the 2 pools or 3. As we went through design development, it became clear that it would be a little less expensive to have the 3 because you would have 3 smaller systems to do all the operating. It also allows us to heat just 1 and not all 3 pools, and it allows us to close 1 pool if we had to. Say there is a fecal accident or something, we could close 1 and keep the other 2 open. So for both operating purposes and a small cost difference, we went with the 3 instead of 2. That was one of the options that was left open. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So
and the
from-
council saw this a few months ago and gave the nod to go ahead
Okay.
with the 3 as well.
I just know from my conversations with people when they were deciding the pool options, like the main reason they picked the first one was because everything was within like sight of everything. And so particularly people I know that have like small kids, that their big issue at the pool now is that your kid could get up and just kind of take off and go to the other pool. Or if you had a younger kid and an older kid and they were in 2 different pools, you like weren't really able to see both of them. And it feels like that problem.
It's one of the
solved.
things that we've been designing for, is so that we do have really good sight from across. And you can see kind of a row of chairs or landscaping put between the 2 to keep kids corralled one side or the other if you need that.
Okay.
So,
And when open swim is happening, how much of the lap lane is dedicated to open swim versus lap swim?
sure. So what we have said all along is that there would be 2 possibly 3 of the 50-meter lap lanes available for lap swimming at all times. And I think we'll probably start with 2 if we find that they're used so much. I think it's going to depend on both the other types of use and the lap swim use that operating-wise we'll have to adjust as we get on the road, but at least 2. And so the majority of that lap lane pool is also still available for open swim during open swim times. Yeah.
At one point, I think, was the diving well, they were talking about making that a 25-meter for lap swim possibly? I mean, is that still a possibility? Or?
We did talk about it. Budget-wise, it is not.
It's not,
We could not make that work within the budget.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are correct. There is not a quote 25-meter opportunity or option here unless we can put a rope across the 50-meter at the halfway point for turnaround. And remember that lap lane pool is 3.5 to 5 feet, so it is walkable for the most part the entire way.
So, and is there less shade structures than in previous versions?
So in this particular drawing, yes, they haven't been situated yet,
Okay.
and some of those will be alternates during the bids. And we've talked about how we can put a lot of sleeves in the ground, so we're ready for more. Even if we can't do it with a base bid, it's something we can continue to add if we want to later. So that part is not quite complete in what you're seeing. Okay, going to move on to the Terrell Mill Skate Park. This is also coming close to finishing design. This is out on Dubuque Street by the boathouse. It is also right at budget, about $2.1 million at this point. We did receive a $250,000 land and water conservation grant from the federal government through the National Park Service and the Iowa DNR. That is a slight hiccup in the schedule on this project because although we have been approved and know that we will receive it, the paperwork is not done with the National Park Service, and we're told that could take 6 months. So we are almost done with design development, but we'll be in a little bit of a holding pattern as far as when we can actually bid. So the skate park here, the lower part is the new roller park for skate parks. This is the current skate park, and it will remain in place. You'll have kind of a new beginner intermediate skating area, and then the top section that looks black or dark gray is the roller park area for bicycles. So, and it is coming together. Let me show you the next picture, maybe shows it a little bit better. We're looking at a black and gold theme of the colored concrete right off Dubuque Street, along with a little bit of a literary theme. There are 3 elements that are kind of hard to see in here, but they represent books. So some of the ramps will be like big books out there. So we don't know what author or title is going to be on those yet, but we're kind of bringing that into the whole thing. I think it's coming together pretty nicely. Where we're at on this is design development is complete. We have a permit application into the Corps of Engineers, and we're waiting on this grant agreement with the National Park Service. So bidding ideally would be late spring or summer of 2025 with construction in the fall of 2025. So it's conceivable that we would be opening the roller park and city park pool around the same time, actually, depending on how construction plays out. All right, any questions on the roller park?
Is that Corps of Engineer land or?
No, it's just because of its how close it is to the river.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Will parking stay the same down there?
It will. Okay, and the next projects you've seen recently, so I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. We have received bids and awarded contracts for construction of the next 4 park projects. Construction will likely happen though now in the early spring. I don't see this firm getting started on any of these yet this fall, even if the weather stays really great for the next few weeks. But Adelaide Joy Rogers Park on the west side, if you remember, it has a small loop that we're building along with a playground and a shelter. And this is the playground that has been purchased. I think all of the playgrounds are here in our shop. No?
No, I think we only have 1 playground so far, but one of the other ones was pretty much ready, but they had one piece left. They wanted to ship all at once.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so this is Adelaide Joy Rogers Park. Next one is Brooklyn Park. And this is mostly the playground that is being renovated. You can see it's getting a new accessible path and then a new playground. And this is the playground that's been chosen. Kind of a smaller park, kind of over behind the hospital, and a nice little play structure that is pretty similar to what was there before. If you were, during our neighborhood meeting, we heard, don't change much. We like the way this park is. We like the way it looks and feels. So that's where we're at on that one. College Green Park is, the project area is the area you see outlined in yellow on this photo. And I say that because people are concerned about the historic and other parts of this park. Those are not part of this project, only the playground and the sport court area. So it'll be getting a new, slightly expanded sport court with the Caitlin Clark shooting spot noted. And then also the playground equipment is black and gold to kind of celebrate University of Iowa and basketball season. There's some other basketball type equipment that's going into the playground area, so it'll be kind of a themed playground for that. Yeah.
Is the basketball court, I don't know, movable, adjustable, or
No, it is not.
a couple people?
Yeah.
You mean the court or the hoop?
The hoop, I don't know
Oh, the hoop,
basketball.
sorry.
I don't think we did movable. It's,
We didn't because operationally we find the other ones break pretty constantly on us with up and down, and also the rims get bent and whatnot when people hang on them more than they should. So it's kind of we would love to have different heights too for different ages, but we also want a hoop that actually functions. Good question though.
okay. And then the final project is the trail extension at Calder Park. And this one, if you remember, this is a playground that did not have an accessible, or still does not have an accessible path. It's kind of at the bottom of a hillside, just to the east of Hickory Hill Park on Hickory Trail. So this adds an accessible trail to the playground and connects it to the new development happening at Rochester and Rochester and Scott Boulevard. So gives us a nice trail connection. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is each year as a staff, we propose 5 years worth of capital projects. And it goes through a staff committee, a couple different staff committees first, actually. It will be, what you're going to see tonight will be presented to the City Council on January 22nd, and that's when they'll likely make their final approval. What you see at this point, though, has historically been pretty close to what the council approves after it's already gone through the different vetting of the various staff committees. It's a 5-year plan. Some of the projects you're going to see in 2025 we're already talked about, and those are well underway. As you get out to 2029, not so much. Those projects are there. You can expect a lot of movement of projects from 2028 and 2029 as we get closer. A lot of the things follow our recreation facilities master plan and our parks master plan, which, as you know, we've almost completed, and we'll talk about that too. So we start with our 2025 CIP projects. The first one, as I mentioned, is City Park Pool. We've already gone through that. The next one is the Iowa River Trail Bridge replacement. This is the bridge along the west side of the Iowa River, kind of behind Kelly Auto and Dairy Queen. There's actually 2 bridges over there that are pretty close, that are not in very good condition. This replaces one with another bridge, or repairs that bridge, I'm sorry, and then the other one it will replace with more of a culvert instead of the bridge. So we're excited. This is one that's needed to get done for a while. Design work is done. It's ready to bid, and so that'll come up. Terrell Mill Roller Park, as we discussed. Carson Lake land acquisition. This is on the far west side of the community. We've talked about this in past years, but this is new development west of 218. And the idea is that this will be a large park, probably along the lines of a Terry Trueblood type park area out there. It says, the land acquisition, don't get too excited about this being a park yet, though. The land acquisition is really to first establish the retention basin or the large lake. So we're several years from this being a usable park. This starts the process to get it built. I know the school district is looking at land out there too for expansion as well as housing development. So more to come in that area, but it will be a while. Okay. We have several City Hall projects. I'll let Josh talk about what these are.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. City Hall projects wise, we're going to have second floor HVAC replacement. So that is actually going to be pulled into 2 years because it's only $50,000 a year that's going into that. So it's just the cost of everything. We're having to pull multiple years into that one. That'd be 4129. 4416 is going to be Police Investigations Office Edition. That one is, they're adding another officer into investigations and another analyst. So they're out of space. So they're adding another one of those. 4417 is going to be City Hall fire alarm upgrade. That system it's lacking in a few areas, so made that precedence that we get that updated on that one.
Yeah, and I should mention, why do we talk about City Hall projects as Parks and Recreation? So Government Buildings is a division of Parks and Recreation. It not only oversees both of the rec centers and our, like Terry Trueblood Lodge and the Ashton House, but also City Hall, Fire Station 1, police stations, animal services to some degree, and the other fire stations. So you'll see a few other budget projects in here that are not truly Parks and Rec, but they are because we happen to take care of facility maintenance.
Yep. One last on that, we have 4330 and 4407, they're HVAC and rec center annual improvements. One of those is carryover for the roof replacements that we're doing. To be able to fund those, and the other one's going to replace the units on Robert A. Lee roof in preparation for, in the next, we'll discuss here in a little bit longer, the roof replacement on Robert A. Lee. So we're trying to upgrade our units on the roofs before we do the roofs. That way we can try to spread the money out a little bit farther and a little more bang for a buck.
Yeah, so the roofs that we have completed this year, we have completed Mercer on the Scanlon over the gym part. City Hall is underway right now. If you've tried to get in City Hall, it's a little challenging at the moment because we're working on the City Hall roof. Not all of it is getting replaced. Some is repaired, some is replacement. And then likely in the spring, we'll do the roof over the Mercer Aquatic Center area with the current funding that we have. That leaves Robert A. Lee, so that's coming up in future years. So any questions on 2025? It's a big dollar year for us at 18.9 million, but realize most of that is City Park Pool. And you'll see that the first 2 years are pretty robust in projects for us, and then we go through some low years. The reason for that is that our Parks and Rec projects are in the same pot of money as a lot of your street projects, a lot of other big infrastructure projects. So the Dodge Street replacement is coming up. Court Street is going to be redone soon. Sorry, all you East Siders. I mean, yay, all the East Siders. Court Street is going to start for a 3-year project. Taft Road on the far east side. There's a lot of large street projects. So some years, those take more of the general fund funding than we get in Parks and Rec. So if you're wondering why some years are more and some are less, that's generally the reason. All right, so 2026 projects, we start with another trail project. We're working on a full connection along Highway 6 all the way from east to the west side of the community. So this is another trail section that happens, Fair Meadows to Broadway. Then I'll let Tyler take over Napoleon Field renovations.
Yes, so the Napoleon softball field renovations, this is one, like Julie said, things can move around from year to year. This one's been pushed back quite a few times, so we're hopeful 2026 is the year to do this project. Updating fields 5 through 8 to get better drainage, laser level grade those surfaces, and then do maybe some of the paths and stuff through the facility then if we have enough funding there to just upgrade those. They're showing some age as well. The next one on the screen there is North Market Square playground replacement. So that would be just one of our typical playground replacements. That playground's reaching its end of life, parts that are failing or whatnot, and hard to get replacement parts for playgrounds of those ages.
And we are in conversation. The school district will be contributing to this for some of the accessible equipment that they'd like to add at that, because it's used largely by the school right next door. Okay, Carson Lake, as I talked about, this is more of the retention basin being built on that far west side. Palisades, another one that's moved around a lot.
Yeah, this one, we're still waiting on the land to actually be ours. It's been, it's in the neighborhood open space plan, but a certain amount of the development has to be developed, and then the developer has to get their pieces in order before we actually have the land in our ownership. So it's moved around a bit because we don't have it yet. So this would be a playground and shelter and some small little connecting paths in that park. It's about the size of 3 residential lots, so it's a pretty small park, but no playgrounds real close to that now, so it'll really serve a big role in that part of the neighborhood.
Where is that located?
North of the old North Dodge Hy-Vee.
Oh.
It's the best way I can explain it. Kind of everything dead ends up there in there.
It's somewhat similar in size and scope to Adelaide Joy Rogers Park, and 18 years is how long it took us to get that land from the developers. So it can sometimes take a while for us to get the actual land and get the park built. All right, the next one's City Park.
Yeah, so this is City Park shelters and restroom replacement. So if you remember from past years, we had Upper City Park, and that one actually moved, and it moved to the same year as Lower City Park. So we'll be doing essentially all the shelters and an update to at least one of the restrooms in Lower City Park at that time. So last year, maybe around this time, we brought you some kind of initial thoughts about where the shelters may be there and what we may be doing. But just keep in mind, this added 3 shelters in Upper City Park as well. So once the pool's done, we'll be able to get in there and do those and get those updated. Some of our oldest shelters in the park system, there's only a couple other ones that are kind of the age that these are. So in much need of replacements and some repositioning, just thinking about future floodability and things like that as well.
Park paving.
Yeah, so this park paving improvements, this is the Mercer one,
Mercer
correct?
Athletic, yeah. So we have a lot of asphalt parking lots throughout the community that have seen better days, and we're finally getting some funding to get those either rebuilt or resurfaced depending on their condition. But the first one on the list is the Mercer Athletic. It's a large paved parking lot there.
And the one piece of that I believe we're trying to get into the plans is there's a little area that's depressed in one spot there that's about a foot lower. We're trying to get it so we can bring that back up to that level too if the funding allows. So it'll be all one level lot and we won't have those transitions and be a lot better for snow removal.
This one you'll see in pretty much every year. It's a combination. We have about 50,000 some years and 100 other years for park annual improvements. These are small projects or partnership projects. So if one of the sports associations comes to us and has funding and wants to partner with us and needs a little extra money, we can use this fund. It's been used for park signs, park furnishings like benches and those kind of things. And then 30,000 of this is contract tree plantings, so continuing our tree plantings.
And one thing to keep in mind on the tree plantings, we had 100,000 up until a couple of years ago annually for that. So you'll probably see less trees in future years. We're trying to come up with ways to save money putting those in, either using our staff time or trying to find trees that we can actually get that are what we want for reasonable prices too. So it's less than a third of what it was just a couple of years ago. So we'll continue to try to find grants and stuff to supplement as well.
The next one is the expansion of the columbarium. This is where cremains are interred at the cemetery. Our current one is selling out at a much more rapid pace than we expected, so this will give us more options for burials and interments at the cemetery. All right, Josh is back up.
All right, so 4412, that's going to be Robert A. Lee roof repairs and kind of going off of 25 with replacing the units on the roof. Preparation. So we're going to place the units and then we're going to replace the roof above it. So some of these roofs are running into areas where the curb is not high enough or we have to put more insulation to be able to meet our energy efficiency. So we're having to do some raising and lowering of stuff. So that will be the whole roof replacement on this particular building. The next one's going to be 4129, 4388. It's going to be City Hall elevator improvements and annual repairs. So this one is bringing up ADA improvements, bringing it up to code. A lot of our elevators are pretty aged out, so getting the carriers and everything rebuilt in them and get them brought back up to standards. Next one will be 4412, Rec Center annual improvements. This one is going to be going to Mercer this particular year for window resealing. The windows have not been resealed in that building for an extremely long time, and they're in really bad shape. So we're going to be having them come in and reseal the whole building, every window, door, all of that. So next one is going to be K1003, which is Senior Center Phase 1 improvements. So that has been a multi-phase project to break that building up. We just finished doing the exterior stonework. Next is into windows and doors and security system, and then it'll phase in the next few years, you'll see, with an interior improvement. So working outside in like we should be doing in all facilities.
And they have a master plan where they got quite a bit of public input to prioritize the projects. There'll be a 2-phase project there for the interior, and I don't know that we have all the specifics on that yet.
No, it was written pretty loosely, but they're doing it correctly with starting at the outside working in. So.
Yep.
R4420 Ped Mall fountain renovations. So this past year we were able to get the fountain up and going. Everyone, hooray! It's working to its full capacity, but we do have continued issues with the surfacing that's on there. Just the sheer amount of traffic, vehicular traffic on there, and just the stonework is not conducive for the amount of traffic that's going across it. So we're going to be looking at doing a different renovation for that, maybe adding colored concrete, but still implementing every feature from what was in there back into it. Just try to make it so it's a little bit more sustainable longevity.
Okay. So 2025 and 2026, we had 18 million, and then we have 12 million in this year. So 2027, a little more reasonable. We go down to 1 million, and that could change by the time we get there. But this is a lot fewer projects than this year, just simply because we'd taken a little more than our share for those first 2 years of this project. But the first one is another trail segment. This is the Willow Creek Trail, which is south of West High. This is a renovation of that trail. It's already there. It's just it's starting to fail. Mercer Shelter.
Yeah, so this is the one shelter at Mercer is older than the others. It's an older style. It's had some renovations over the years, but just bringing that up to our standard like we have in our master plan to match the others. We get a lot of use of those shelters at that park. They're probably 2 of our highest rented shelters in the whole system, so it'd be nice to get that up and new.
And then again, our park and tree annual improvement, a little higher this year than in 27 than it was in 26. Back to Josh.
All right, 4129 and 4388. Again, City Hall elevator improvements, HVAC, HUN, which is, again, we're rolling money over again to be able to justify being able to buy air handlers. That is updating the 3rd floor air handler on engineering. In preparation again for us having to put a roof on that. So we put a coating on it this year to be able to buy some years out of it. And we'll be putting units on that and then a roof in about 10 years on that one. So 4412 Rec Center annual improvements, Mercer lobby. So we just put a roof on over where did the skylighting repairs at Mercer. We know we had some water damage. This is the next phase to go interior and fix the interior of that. So update the acoustical paneling, the lighting in there, get rid of the submarine lighting and make it more up to date, fix the drywall and stuff in there. So next we'll go to 4406, which is Robert A. Lee structural cable repairs. It's fairly significant for this building. We have a lot of corrosion issues in the pool area. So that will be to repair the cabling and the anchoring systems in this building because this is a post-cable tension building.
It's a unique structure, and these post-tension cables hold this building in place, basically. So
It holds it square.
Yeah, holds it square. So
because it's all precast panel building, so the cables hold everything square in it. So there's quite a bit of corrosion. There was a study done 2 years ago on that. It gave us a couple options to do it, and this is where it best fit in our plan to be able to make these repairs. So it's a pretty significant price, but it's needed.
all right, any questions to this point? 2 more years to go.
I do. I have a question. Does the work on Robert A. Lee account for what might happen with the future of that pool area?
It does not. This is solely work that needs to be done for the building integrity, the building shell integrity.
I guess what I wonder is like, depending on what happens with the pool project, would that, I mean, it's like, would we do work and then have to like redo it, or is it?
Potentially, but if we don't do the work soon, we'll have bigger repairs to make. So it's kind of, we're doing what needs to be done now to once again keep the integrity of the building, of its basic structure. Since there's been no discussion or decision of what could happen or what would happen next, we just have to go with what is right now and keep it solid so it's available at that point to do something the same or different, whichever's decided. Good question. Thanks. Is there any?
The park and tree improvement fund, does that go for trees on the right of way as well? Or is it just for parks?
Yeah, it's essentially it's right-of-way trees, that 30,000, and all those years, the number changes, but it's 30,000 each of those years for the trees portion. The park's annual improvements changes within that.
Okay, but it's not just for parks.
2028. We'll start with Benton Hill Park renovations.
Yeah, so Benton Hill Park's one of our remaining like 5 that haven't been updated since we did the master plan. So a little bit older. It just could use a nice refresh. We'll look at if the shelter and if there need to be any additions, changes to kind of the tree house type structure at that time too. But that's that'll be all part of the public comment. Trail project, this is kind of the intersection of Highway 1 and Riverside. So this corresponds with a few things, including the DOT doing bridge work. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one moves around depending on their schedule for the new bridge that's going to cross the river there. But it'll get us more accessible crosswalks, and it'll be a lot more conducive to pedestrians and cyclists in that area. And it will, I believe, then be our last link from east to west through there as well. So we'll have that whole trail system from McDonald's by Mormon Trek all the way pretty much to the Moose Lodge on the east side. So it'll be a nice connection at that point.
And then once again, our park and tree annual improvements are listed there. Okay, facilities.
Okay, 4413 is going to be our indoor pool UV disinfectant systems. So we want to replace, update, and add. So just another form of disinfecting within our pool systems. 4415 Mercer lobby and classroom roof repairs. So those are will be the last 2 roof replacements at Mercer. And we want to make sure we get those done, so that is replacing those.
I think it's my mistake. It's actually locker rooms and classrooms, isn't it? Includes the locker room area?
It's locker rooms, the lobby area, there's a short roof there, and then above, like by P&G.
Yeah, so we have the gym, the aquatic center, and then kind of the area in between, so 3 different roof areas.
So yeah, Mercer with the multiple additions that have been put on there has different segregations of what covers what and what HVA system runs which area. So it's a very unique structure to operate. So 4412 Rec Center annual improvements, that's going to be a master key system. We don't technically have one right now. And we have one that's very old, I should rephrase, excuse me. But we want to get that updated and get back into a 2-3 key system rather than having lots of different key systems.
It's just time to clean up. We know that the keys have
Yes.
been given out at various times in the last 50 years, and
We need to reset the clock and go back and start back over again. Again, K1004, Senior Center Phase 2 interior improvements. So this gets in more of what we see day to day, interior carpeting, furnishings, that type of stuff. It is very broad, classroom relays, centralize the offices in the building. Lastly, City Hall annual improvements. This goes to BAS. This is something that we have to keep and stay ahead of all the time with our automation systems. So BAS, building automation, it's what tells us how the building is operating. We can look at it live, real time, and see exactly what's on, what's off, and make the adjustments on it. So it's updating those systems and staying ahead of times.
2029, we have 200,000 for trails, and I don't remember what this was designated for.
I don't know if we had a specific next up for trails with that, but we do know most of our asphalt trails are starting to show some age, so it would be an update to whatever presents itself. This is quite a few years out, so whatever is the most emergent need at that point. Reno Street Park, this may be the second to last one probably that'll need to be done since the park master plan. So nice little park there. Parks Maintenance Storage Building, looking like it would be at the soccer complex. And this is mostly for storage of equipment all year round, but winter especially. Keeping it inside allows us to keep that equipment operating a lot longer and in a lot better condition than if it's out in the elements. Harlech Hill Park, very, very small park. If any of you could lead me there, I'd be surprised. But it has a very small playground, so just an update to that at that time.
It's kind of behind Hawks Ridge, to the north of Hawks Ridge, but you can't get to it from there. You have to come in from the neighborhood on the north side. So, to give you an idea.
More paving improvements. I don't remember exactly.
Scott Park,
Okay,
this one.
Scott Park for this one. So we did a little bit at Scott Park. What we had funding for last year was the worst place there was by the parking for the dog park. So this would be kind of the rest, a very steep drive down in and then going over towards the newer playground as well.
The annual tree improvements. Okay, so then we move on to event facilities improvement.
Yeah, event facilities, it'd be TTRA restaining. The building will be restaining this next year, but every 3 to 4 years, we need to be thinking about restaining that wood structure down there. So that'll be H2O, the main lodge, and then there's some railing areas around there. So that will be that. 4415 Mercer Scanlon exterior tuck pointing. Again, this is just working around the building, trying to get everything up to date. The building has got significant age on it now, and the tuck pointing in between the bricks is starting to show some serious weathering. So that'll be retuck pointing that whole building and getting that up to snuff. 4129 City Hall annual improvements. That's going to be carryover again for air handler replacement over at City Hall. 4412 Rec Center annual improvements. That's going to be the gym acoustical panels down here to replace those. That is, I'm pretty certain, is original to the building, and it is really starting to see some wear and tear. We would be minimalizing the amount that's put on the wall, and new standards would put more on the ceiling for the noise is going this way rather than this way. So that is something that will be happening.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but in this 5-year plan, there is significantly more money going to the rec centers for different upgrades. And none of them are extremely sexy, fun things. They are all things that need to be done just to keep our buildings watertight and operating. So I am excited that we're getting to do those things, because probably for the last 5 years, when we've gone to council, we've talked about our aging facilities, both here in City Hall and the police and fire stations, and talked about how it's difficult to keep maintaining and keep operating these buildings. So all these smaller projects, I think, will help with that and help keep our buildings servicing the public for a long time. And there's a lot of priorities out here, as you can see. There's a lot of things that we know need to be done that staff has identified. And that's going to go through, I'm just going to go through the next 2 lists really quick. But here's things we requested funding for, but we didn't receive funding. Now, these go on an unfunded list. And when we return to this next year for the next 5-year plan, some of these things could shuffle into the future years. Occasionally, there'll be another large city project that for some reason gets delayed and the funding becomes available. So sometimes these projects will shift and go into those. But the most significant of these, in my opinion, is Oak Grove Park renovations was in 27 or 28. And that's been moved to the unfunded list for the moment. The equipment and the shelter are in good shape, but that is our last park that needs renovation from the park master plan. So I'd like to see them all done. And That one's not on there. We have asked for restroom renovations at both of our baseball facilities, baseball and softball, so both Napoleon and City Park Baseball. Those have not been funded yet. That's the first year we asked for those. We've asked for a band shell, a permanent band shell, and some storage room area at Riverfront Crossing Park. If you, this past summer, Summer of the Arts did a concert series down there, loved it. Good attendance, good vibe, but they had to bring in this showcase stage from Coralville, and we're just not sure how much longer that's going to be available and movable. It's pretty old. So this would give us more of a permanent stage at the end of the ellipse for concerts. We asked for community garden enhancements. Chatty Green Garden has a nice fence around it, has paved paths. We'd like to do similar at Weatherby and possibly Reno Street or Kiwanis Park. Not yet funded. South Hickory Hill Park, the shelter there is nearing an age where it needs to be replaced. That's the, which entrance?
It's the one off of the Bloomington entrance, and it may be our oldest shelter that we have. It'd be close to the City Park ones.
Yeah. And then also with Hickory Hill Park, we are getting new land to the north from the new senior housing development. It should be, if it hasn't been dedicated yet, it should be dedicated soon. And that will allow us for a new entrance. So we're looking at a new, possibly parking area, small shelter from the north side off of Scott eventually. Not funded yet, but we'll go there. Replacing the playground, one of the playgrounds at Kickers is on this list. The basketball court renovations at Court Hill. You might say, wow, that's a lot of money for that small court. It is. It's got huge drainage issues, and it's going to have to be almost an entire rebuild. We do it, unfortunately. So that's on the list, but it's a while out. And then all the tiled floor replacement at Mercer, anywhere you see in the lobby, the classrooms, that has floor tile, that's a replacement for that. So those are the current new things that we asked for that weren't funded. We also, City Park roads and parking lot replacement. We noticed we got Mercer Athletic and Scott Park parking lots, which are huge. We need those done too, but City Park roads and parking lots are not far behind. That has not yet been funded, although we did ask for that. So we will continue to ask for that. The other big things that have not been funded for more than a year, just so you're aware of these, Fair Meadows, we've asked for a loop trail through that park for a number of years. There's some more trail connections. The Napoleon to Riverfront Crossing Park trail replacement is a pretty significant one because of a large bridge that is just to the south of Highway 6, right? Highway 6. Whispering Meadows, improvement of those trails. Riverfront Crossing Park, when it was developed, has two more phases that could be developed. One being more of an amphitheater right down on the river with a kayak launch. And then the other one is a second restroom building and a second pedestrian bridge. And both of those are kind of waiting on some other development to happen around the park area. But those have not been funded as far as projects. Ashton House, we'd like to see additional parking areas there, especially now that we're using it more for programming. And then Lower City Park Master Plan included raising the main road so it became more of a flood deterrent of the baseball fields and other areas. We have done a lot of the smaller things that were called out in that Lower City Park Master Plan. We've moved the carnival is no longer there. We've moved the playground up on the hillside. Where with the shelter project, we'll be moving shelters out of the floodway. So we're getting several pieces of it done, but the larger part would really make more of it flood-proof, including the Riverside Festival stage and other things. It's got a big price tag. And same thing at Eastside Sports Complex. The plans have been out there for a while. There hasn't been any indication of funding for those. And the biggest one that's not on here is both of our rec centers, the future of both of the rec centers. Those have not been included. As you know, we said we would wait until City Park Pool is done. And then those discussions would happen in the future planning for those. Would likely have to be some other type of funding source. As you can see, the general fund funding source is probably not at the capacity to do a major facility renovation. I can tell you that in the next couple months, the council has on their work session agenda to talk about the possibility of the lost sales tax, which is a different funding source that cities can use for a number of projects. And I'm not an expert on speaking to that, But they are looking at some alternative funding sources for some of these larger projects. But there's no funding and no planning beyond what the rec facility master plan did for either this building or Mercer, except as we just went through all of kind of the remedial repairs to keep them operating. All right, that's a lot of projects and a lot of money. I go home and my husband and I argue about the grocery bill, and they come here and we spend millions, but what other questions do you have that we can answer?
I just had a clarification. You said the colored concrete replacing on the fountain would help with, make it more sustainable because people would avoid walking on it, or?
No, so one of the issues is it is like a hardscape right at the moment down there, hardscape stone.
Oh.
And it's just got a sand layer or a short grout layer underneath of it. So when the cars drive over, it keeps pushing on it and rocking. So right now there are grouted joints between that. And when a car drives over it, it breaks the grout out. And then when the water comes up and cascades down through it, it's getting underneath of it and it's walking the sand out. So that's why you see like the uneven, like one day it looks just fine, the next day there's a stone sticking up in the air. That's one of the issues. So we're going to try to look at different options, and that is one of the options, maybe to go to a colored concrete to maybe so it will last longer than the hardscape that's there right now, patio-wise.
I was curious, looking at the Benton Hill Park renovations, does any of that have to do with the trail maintenance as well? It kind of goes back into the trees back in there. Is that a part of it at all?
We could look at that at the same time. It just kind of depends on what the budget is there. That's kind of like a soft surface trail right now. Most of it, there's a little bit of gravel on some of it, but we have done quite a bit of natural areas work there this last year. So at least for now, some of the invasive species are pushed back. So there shouldn't be as much overgrowth. Makes it a little more enjoyable.
And is that treehouse feature, is that currently ADA accessible?
Yeah, the structure itself is, the trail to it, I believe, has gravel surfacing, so that may be something to look at that time, because the gravel may be at times accessible, but I don't know if it's always, depends on what the weather's doing as well.
Yeah.
Good question.
I have a question. So two things that weren't mentioned, but the Burlington Street Bridge and then that next bridge, that next intersection up, I think Newton and Riverside. So right now the trail at Newton and Riverside is out. Is that Parks and Rec, or is that totally out of, and yeah.
Thankfully, no, those are not Parks and Rec. One of them was just bid and there was no bidders. So I know that we're delayed on one of the over projects to get over in that area. I don't remember which bridge that is, but they're both being looked at. I can, after the meeting, I can look up the year and tell you the funding of it, so.
Will Parks and Rec have any role in, kind of looking at the, accessibility or like the park's functions, particularly, those, I guess, Burlington Street Bridge, when that happens, replacement. I mean, it seems like there's some great recreational opportunities there. Even aside from, I know there's been talk about, whether to make water features there, but just as far as pedestrian and bike crossings, it seems like a pretty important area that.
Yeah. We haven't, to this point, I'm not aware that we will have a big role in it. There will be a public process, so commission members can get involved in that way, but it won't be managed through the Parks and Recreation, as far as I know. So, yeah.
One other, how is it decided that, I guess the roof at Mercer is more pressing than the roof at RAL? I'm just wanting to.
Yeah, so there was a study done 2021 or 2.
Yeah, we had experts up looking at 3 roofs. So
Correct.
here, City Hall and Mercer, knowing that all 3 were nearing. Mercer, when we went up to look at it at one point, it had rips all over it. So it moved up in the list very quickly after that. So it is based really on the condition of the 3 different areas.
Correct.
So,
Any other questions from? All right. Move on to item number 6, so reports from city staff.
Okay, a couple things from me, and I might take one of Tyler's items here, I'm not sure. The Penn Mall playground surfacing has been repaired at the moment. I just want to make sure you're clear. The playground is currently closed. The contractor from that project did some repairs on the torn open spaces of the surfacing. We do not think this is not the final answer. This is to keep it from having tripping hazards through the winter. So I heard they cut out pretty cool shapes and made it look fun, but it's all undercover, so I haven't seen it yet. But it may not, the colors may not exactly match. This is a temporary repair. We understand there's still longer term issues with the way that has been sloughing off and the conditions of it. So more to come on the Penn Mall playground, but at least we got that much done at this point. The city council has decided to allow bow hunting of deer in parts of City Park with some caveats. So they were approached by the neighbors in that area looking for more options. The city allows bow hunting throughout the community with lots of restrictions from where you can do it and how much property and clear zone and all those kind of things. But that area around City Park and out to the Ned Ashton House, because of the size of the lots and everything, there's not many places where people could hunt, and the deer population has been pretty high in those areas. So the neighbors came asking for some other ideas. So they have decided to allow limited bow hunting of deer in City Park, mostly along the western area, kind of from where the park shop, on the hillside behind the park shop, and out kind of between the river and the ball diamonds. The one caveat, only city employees at this point are eligible to do the bow hunting. And we have, as of today, one city employee interested in it. So this is not a large operation, I just want you all to know. And we have, as of this afternoon, approved a place where he can have a deer stand kind of to the north of the ball fields. We don't have to close the trails or anything, but you could see bow hunting of deer out there between now and whenever deer season ends. So something new. The DNR does not allow the city to have a sharpshooter come in and do anything more than bow hunting at this point. So they've been looking at other ways to open up bow hunting a little bit more to help kind of cull some of the deer. So, yeah.
A few years ago, didn't they allow for sharpshooters in the cemetery and all?
They did allow, we did have White Buffalo company come in and do sharpshooting 4 or 5 years ago. The state allowed it once and then felt that bow hunting would be enough to keep the deer population in check. That has not been the case, but we're hoping maybe it just depends, but they may happen again in coming years.
Is there any discussion in opening up bow hunting to not city staff?
They will try this one.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they don't have any more, or if they find that there's enough deer population to support more in that area, it may open. So the best thing to do is to get qualified at Fin and Feather to be one of the bow hunters. You have to go through a qualification and background check and all of that, and then let them know you're definitely interested in certain areas, and it could move on to that.
And what would the hours, like, so that person's out at City Park going to deer hunt, what's the hours that they're allowed to be out there?
Not determined yet.
Okay.
So I don't know yet. Yeah.
Sure.
It's got to be daylight hours, but I don't know exactly when.
Okay.
So.
What do they do with the dead deer, just out of curiosity?
I believe that, do you know, Josh? Yeah.
So you could do multiple things. You can harvest them and preserve it yourself, or there is a hush program. So you can take it to a local locker and they will grind it, and anyone who wants deer can get ground deer meat, which it's much like beef. It's more organic, but that is an option. If they choose not to keep it themselves, there is a program the state provides called Hush.
And so, like, the public can go get deer meat from it?
There's some stipulations. There's a program. I don't know fully, but yeah, you could go there and get it. It was designed for the underserved.
Yeah.
To be able to have that access to meat, but I think it's pretty lax that pretty much anyone could go get meat if you so choose to.
Sure.
But there is a list the state provides of local lockers.
Yeah.
Locally, there's one in Riverside, Solon, Tipton. There is lockers around that do accept.
The last time it was done with a sharpshooter, it went through the food banks. From that, so. Okay, in your packets, in your correspondence, you had received a letter from 2 individuals asking the commission to consider reaching out to a landowner to try to preserve an area called the Roosevelt Ravine. It's an area behind the old Roosevelt Elementary School. So the elementary school has been closed for some time. And there's been a lot of different interests of having the land redeveloped. So where we're at right now, just so you know, is that it is owned by a private company. They have not yet given the city a development plan. So there is no action you can take at this time, is what I'm saying. The letter is asking you to take action to get the land dedicated for parkland. The development probably isn't going to have a park dedication requirement due to a number of things, which I'm not clear on that exactly, but even then, at this particular time, there's nothing on the table to discuss, is kind of the point. So hold on to it. It may come up in the future, and it could be discussed at that time. So. And then a thank you to Alex and possibly Aaron. This could be their last meeting, so that's what the cookies are for. So pass them around again if you didn't get them.
Go back around.
And then,
All right, thank you, Julie. So next we'll hear from Brad, and then Tyler.
Yeah, so I wanted to update you on some events that we had last month. October is traditionally a very busy month for Parks and Recreation, probably across the country, because it is the month of Halloween. We have an abundance of Halloween events that we do throughout the course of the month. Kind of with the finale, the Halloween Carnival that we have here in the Recreation Center, where we basically take over every nook and cranny of this facility, and we pack a lot of people from the public in here. I think we had 1,200 come through the door in 2 hours, so by the time they're running through everything. We also have some activities outside. We have a DJ that's out there. We have s'mores. So we utilize not just the facility, but we utilize outside for it. It's a fantastic event. We see a lot of cute costumes, a lot of families coming through the doors for that, so it's a great event. And then we have a variety of other Halloween events that we do throughout the course of the month. We also, on October 14th, this is our second year of having our Indigenous Peoples Day, which this was an event that was initiated by our Recreation Program Supervisor, Mallory Smizer, who oversees the adaptive programming and our outreach programming. And she had reached out to make sure that this event was fully representative. So we have a lot of different partners that work with us on that. The Great Plains Action Network primarily is one of our big partners for that event, to be able to put that on, and it's a wonderful event. We'll plan to do that. We're actually maybe looking at doing that on a Sunday rather than the actual Indigenous Peoples Day date, which typically is on a Monday. We might get some more people coming out on a Sunday afternoon, but all in all, it's a fantastic event, and it's a great addition to our stable. Coming up here, we have the holiday market this weekend. That's going to be 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is our first of 2 holiday markets. We'll have another one on December 14th. And so we utilize upstairs here in the social hall, and downstairs we have a lot of the same returning vendors from our farmers market season that you're accustomed to out there, but we have a lot of new ones that show up for this to kind of dip their toes in the water, so to speak, to kind of see what interest people may have in their crafts and activities, in their crafts and baked goods. Ashton House, the transition, as you know, we've taken that offline starting this fall as a rental facility, and we've transitioned it over into a adaptive recreation hub for a lot of our programs, and that transition has been going really well. Mallory's gotten some secondhand furniture out there, so it actually looks like a nice house out there now. Very cozy space, and we're hosting most of our adaptive programs out there, and it's been going fantastic. Let's see. So in front of you here, this is another item that I wanted to go over with you. You have a handout in front of you discussing swimming pool water temperatures. I know this had been addressed in the past with you. I think that this had been a recommendation to update everybody on kind of what our process is for setting that pool temperature. And so I wanted to walk you through that a little bit and show you what we see from our side of things when that's being monitored. So you have a couple diagrams there, and I'm glad that Josh is here because he's actually the one that gets to log in and see all these fun sensors and everything and set these control points. But what you have there is you have a diagram showing the journey of the water from filtration and chlorination and sanitization, that whole loop system that we have for each of those pools. And you'll see that there's a lot of different sensors, a lot of different things that we're able to monitor. And what you'll also see is that we have access to the control set points for the water temperature of the pool itself. And so everything Josh mentioned earlier, it's an automated system that we work off of for a lot of our facilities, but the pool is no different. So there's always those adjustments. So when a temperature reaches a certain point, there's adjustments made in that system to make up for that, so that the water temperature can keep constant. So Robert A. Lee swimming pool, the temperature set point is consistently set at 83 degrees, and that's measured in a couple different points, the surge tank, which is actually the water temperature, the actual water temperature, and then the pool water return sensor. And Robert A. Lee is the warmer of our two pools that we have for indoor pools, and we program it as such. So with it being the warmer of our two pools, it's ideal typically for swim lessons, family open swim and events, arthritic and physical therapy users, and water fitness classes. We also have some lap swimmers that do prefer this pool over Mercer. And Mercer Aquatic Center pool temperature set point is consistently at 81 degrees. And that's because that's more of our competitive pool. So we have City High that swims there, Southeast Junior High, Iowa City Eels. But then we also have a lot of lap swimmers that prefer that pool also because it's a little bit cooler. They don't get overheated as they're doing their workouts. So with the monitoring system that we have and all the different sensors, we're able to keep a pretty consistent temperature with the pool. That really doesn't fluctuate too much. I know one of the things that you'll hear, and our staff certainly hears this as well, about the pool water being too cold or too warm. Typically, it's more on the cold side when we hear that from the public. But the ambient temperature is really the biggest consideration in that, because that we don't have as fine of control over a lot of those different elements. So obviously, the proper heating and ventilation systems are essential. The indoor pool dehumidification system helps a lot with that. Mercer Park Aquatic Center does have that dehumidification system. Robert A. Lee, that swimming pool, does not. So that also makes some changes with the finer controls that we have over those temperatures in the natatorium. And also here we have a lot of glass windows, and so when you have those sunnier days, you get a lot of that ambient heat coming in from those sun rays, which warms the pool up a little bit more, which then makes the water seem a little bit colder when you're getting into it. So it's so a lot of different ambient factors that go into play with how people are perceiving the water temperature to be. So that provides a little bit of background, but do you have any questions on that side of things?
All right. Thank you. Tyler.
Okay, I made a list here quick because I was starting to think, and there's quite a few different things. As some of you were coming in, we were talking a little bit, just briefly, just chatting about different things. And porta potties have come up in some of our parks, specifically some of our more natural areas that you hike longer. And we acknowledge we've received the request. Right now, we don't have additional funding in the budget to support more portable restroom units in any of the parks. We do have them at a few parks around, and they're utilized throughout the year. But we do have a weekly fee for cleaning of each of those and providing those units. Just know we've heard requests for more kind of year-round porta potty use. The question came up at Hickory Hill because in previous years, a couple of different times, we've had construction projects out there, so there has been a porta potty there with the construction project because those workers need to be able to have access to the restroom throughout the day. Let's see, next thing, if you've been up to Upper City Park, you may have noticed we are removing the playground in preparation to repurpose it for the pool footprint being slightly different on that side for the new plans that you saw. We need to move the playground. It's a newer playground. We hope to utilize it in Lower City Park. So we have removed that and have it all stored and hopefully ready to put back up next year sometime. Another surfacing I just found out about right before this meeting, we have a really small spot of surfacing that needed some repair at Willow Creek Park, and they may be doing that this coming week as well. It depends on the temperature and everything. This is a much smaller issue than the Petamal one, though, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. REAP grants, so Resource Enhancement and Protection grants, those are through the DNR. We have a few that we're currently working on from previous years that we've received. So we're trying to finish up some things on the Ryerson's Woods project. So we've had staff out there working, contractor out there working to finish some of that work. We have one for Hickory Hill Park, and we're updating some of the bridges there. Our staff is right now, and we also have contractors working on natural areas, kind of vegetation management. And then we have a REAP grant for the Ashton House that will be going out to bid after the new year. Something you don't see on the CIP is some of these grants because they're funded externally. So that one will be a nice, exciting improvement to the Ashton House grounds. And then we have conditional approval for the one we submitted this year. So that's for the Sycamore Greenway. So we're really excited to be able to get in there, do a lot of vegetation clearing and just maintenance of those areas. Supposed to be stormwater, like biocell type spaces, and kind of recharge that area with the stormwater and manage it. And as that area develops around it, we really want to have it good and as functioning as well as it can before some development happens in the next 10, 15 years in that area. So we're excited for that one. That's another $200,000 grant. So we're really pleased to hear that. I think we scored second highest of any of them that were submitted. Trees, so we planted 550 street trees this fall. Staff did all of those, but in total this year we planted 997 trees. That's between parks and street trees. And then we also just yesterday planted another 150 tree seedlings at Ryerson's Woods. So that's not reflected in that 997 number, as those are like a foot to 2 foot tall. So, but we'll definitely get some long-term trees out of that as well. If you've been to Terry Trueblood recently, you'll see we did some clearing along the trails. We hope to continue to do that. We have ash trees that are failing in a lot of those areas, and we also have honeysuckle primarily that we're pushing back from the trail edge. Sand Prairie, another kind of exciting spot we have for natural areas work. We've been working with a few different agencies, the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Nature Conservancy, and Johnson County Conservation. And then we've had kind of the state expert with Professor Dr. Tom Rosberg from Drake out there to do inventory of what we currently have, and we've been working with them to come up with ideas to maintain that. So if you've been by this week, we've done a lot of woody brush removal there. We did a burn last spring. We'll do more burns this spring if the weather allows, just to kind of continue making that space as good as we can, or as natural and native as we can. Last couple of things, we have all the water shut off now to all of our areas, so we got to leave it on a little bit longer this year with the nicer weather, and people were out enjoying being able to use restrooms and drinking fountains a little bit longer. And then my last thing, we're back up to full staff with permanent staff. So a couple weeks ago, we had our newest staff member start. So we're happy. Before winter gets started with snow removal and everything, we're back up there. And yeah, long list, but I'll take any questions.
You couldn't plant 3 more trees to hit the 1,000? So that was
We can say those 150 equal that 3 at
Okay,
least, I guess.
There you go. And Julie had one.
So I have one more thing, because it's not often that you see these 3 staff members together here at this meeting. So my profound thanks to them. All these wonderful things you've just heard about in Parks and Recreation. Also Russ, our cemetery manager, who's not here tonight. But you heard from Brad about all the events that just happened through the summer and October, and they're gearing up for a whole winter. We just lost a commission member to go coach basketball down the stairs. There's things happening all the time, and I'm so appreciative of all the activities happening around here. The new use of the Ashton House is fantastic, and we will probably have a commission meeting out there sometime this spring so you can see it. Josh will celebrate his 1-year anniversary in this position in about 2 weeks. And wow, what a year. I know that every month in your little packet it says, we've been hit with the unknowns and a lot of ups and downs. Well, it's true, but they're evening out because he and his staff have really come around to getting to more of our maintenance, preventive maintenance, more of our planning, which you saw in our capital improvements more than ever. We're getting to a lot of the projects that need to be done. So kudos for that. And then Tyler, oh my God, all the grants you just rambled off, he wrote those. So yay, and all the natural areas and the tree work. I couldn't ask for better staff. And then Gabe up here holds us all together. We couldn't do it without Gabe, that's for sure too. So I'll start crying, but I just want you to know it's Thanksgiving week, month, and I am just extremely thankful for the staff I'm allowed to have here and the work they're doing for all of you. So thank you.
I guess could you join me in applauding the staff for all the great work that they've been doing? Thank you. And it is greatly appreciated by the entire community. So with that, from a chair's report, just want to express my thanks as well. So it's been truly a privilege and honor to serve as the chair of Parks and Rec and be involved, and grateful for the parks and the facilities that we have. We are truly blessed in Iowa City, and grateful for all the hard work and dedication that go into it. So you might hear this again if we have a meeting next month, but so just a little preemptive.
So far, there's no agenda items for next month, so probably not in December. But.
Okay. And hope to see everybody out in the parks and in the future as well. All right, and with that, we'll go around and maybe start with Aaron here as well.
Yeah. First of all, I was just curious, as far as things like deer crossing signs, things like that, who would that be through? I know it's probably not through Parks and Rec.
So assistant city manager is all things deer related here.
Okay.
And so Kurt Lehman is his name, and yeah.
Okay. There's been a growing population of deer out on east side, especially crossing Scott Boulevard. So I was just curious about who we could go to for that. Otherwise, I may or may not be here moving forward. We'll see how everything goes. I'll submit everything tonight. But in case I'm not back, thank all of you. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you. So if I don't see y'all again, hopefully I'll see you out in the parks as well. But otherwise, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks again to all of you, and thanks, Alex. It's been great. And I wanted to double thank Mallory for the Ned Ashton House. I do yoga there on Tuesday nights through Parks and Rec. And it's just so welcoming. Like every week I come, there's like a new little sign, or there's so many arts and crafts, and it just looks like a really great space. So thank you.
No, nothing new, but I also I'm very pleased to be a small part of this incredible community, and it makes me very proud, and I brag about us wherever I go.
Brian?
Yeah, it's really cool to hear about all the things going on, because some things you know about, some you don't, and it just seems like there's always so much. So definitely add on to the thank you. One question I had is, last month we had some information about the baseball parks, and I know there was a citizen who'd come in and there was plans to follow up with him.
Yeah, we
So
did.
just kind of, do you have an update on where that stands?
So Brad and I sat down and met with him, kind of the same information he passed along to you folks, of wanting to know, if, is there a way to get more involved in fields? And we did talk about that. I can't remember what else we talked. It's been a while. We met with him just a few days later.
Field use priorities and kind of where they would land in that order, having more field access and when that's reserved.
Yeah. I think we got his questions answered in kind of timeline, understanding of where we're at on it all, so.
And then is that officially transferred to the 28E agreement? Is that signed at this point?
It is not. It is going back and forth between the school district attorneys and the city attorney. It will probably be on a council agenda before the end of the calendar year, but it's not yet signed.
And I guess one question I had that I didn't fully understand, and so I apologize if this has been explained, but why is Parks and Rec interested in giving up this space that's, in demand by the community to the school district, exclusive, and then it would be exclusively?
So our records didn't show that high level of demand that you may have heard other places, first of all. And mostly we are in a strong partnership with the school district on a number of facilities. So it really played into what we do with the school district in a number of areas. We feel like we can fulfill the amount of use that we've been seeing in recent years with the 2 remaining fields and with Happy Hollow and other options at City Park. So we would love to see more fields come in the future, and we'll keep advocating for that. But as an overall good partner and neighbor to the school district, this seemed to be a good move for that overall partnership.
Is this something where kind of a budgetary thing where the school would then be responsible, is it kind of they would be responsible for maintenance, and so it's a budgetary decision, or what's the
It is
impetus?
partially. They will be fully responsible for fields 1 and 4, and they will also start paying us for uses of fields 2 and 3, which they had not for their boys baseball team, and they will pay an amount each year into the future capital improvements of the public spaces surrounding their 2 fields. So the city will not be responsible. I can't remember the number of years. It's a longer term, 30 or 40 years, that the city will not be responsible for anything on fields 1 or 4. We are still responsible for the common area, the pathways, and then fields 2 and 3 and the other park amenities around it, but not the actual fields. So.
Thank you.
I first want to say thanks to Brad and the park staff for letting us take over like 3 different locations for voting on Tuesday. So we have voting at Robert A. Lee, Mercer, and Terry Trueblood, and that all seemed to go really well. So that's good. A couple questions I had. Did the patch repair at Pedmal Park, I know it's going to be closed today through Wednesday. Did that get all finished today?
I believe it's finished. They're just waiting on the cure on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was still pretty soft earlier today. We're waiting for it to
rain
fully
didn't help,
cure before
but-
those
okay.
pieces come up.
I
So.
have grandparents coming in this weekend to watch my kids.
I hope so. It should be by the weekend. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or the next day, but
Okay.
yeah.
And then my other question, with the passing of the conservation bond, is there any opportunity for that money to assist in some of the trail projects that you guys are taking on? Or
That's a good question. I think it has to be in the county proper, but there are opportunities around that may be adjacent to parks, whether it's something like, for instance, Ryerson's Woods is actually in the county, so there could be some adjacencies there, or adjacencies south of Trueblood, for instance. But really, the trail system, especially the last one that was funded, connected us up to a lot of other spots. So it's really connecting our trails to other ones through the whole system, which I think is probably the biggest benefit out of all that. But unfortunately for some of our replacements, I don't think it allows for that.
Thanks. That's all for me.
All right, thank you so much for being here this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Seconded?
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, have a wonderful evening and a happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you.